An addiction for some, an enjoyable pastime for others. Whether you are a competitive league player or an oriental masturbation addict, nothing quite matches the life of ranking. And if you're playing ranked, you want to climb. Simple as that. So let's look into reasons why you're not climbing in League of Legends. Now I know what you're thinking, this is low effort rubbish content that's been done 1,000 times before. And you're sort of right, so to start things off, let's get rid of the really obvious and overplayed cliches. You rage too much, you type too much, you tilt too much, you blame too much, you die too much, you ping too much, you don't CS enough, you don't use your map enough, you watch my videos, you play things you can't play, you play to win, not to improve, you play for kills, not for objectives. Basically, you're bad at League of Legends. Alright, so with those out of the way, hopefully this means that we can get to some slightly more interesting points. I mean, it's hard to totally avoid the things I just listed, but hopefully I can show you some things that you may not have heard before, stuff that will really help you out. Hopefully, or at least that's what I've tried to do, so let's go. The first reason why you don't climb in League of Legends is because you misallocate what's important to win. Too many times when I'm streaming or in the comments in my videos, people will ask me, Foxy, what champion should I play to escape bronze? Foxy, what role should I play to get out of silver? Big dick boy, is it easier to climb if I'm duo or solo? All of these questions imply an underlying problem with the thought process of what it takes to win. It's like asking what color car you should use to pass your driving test, or what drink to buy your mum to bag a quickie in the toilets. These factors are really not important for achieving your goal. Your champion choice is important, definitely something you should be thinking about, but only to the degree that you find the right fit for you, and that's not something that you really need to ask me about. There is no quick fix for climbing, unfortunately. Ultimately, all it comes down to is your in-game performance and your methods for improving as a player, which brings me nicely to my next point. You overthink what it takes to improve. Maybe the phrase itself is so ambiguous by definition that it seems daunting, and if you think about it, there are astronomical differences between you and the challenger players sitting atop the throne of solo queue. But you don't really need to look that far ahead. Chances are you're shite at this game. No offense. I mean, aren't we all really? Either way, this means that there are a decent amount of mistakes that you'll be making each game, but you don't need to fix every single one, at least not right away. Just focus on one thing, just one. Get better at doing that. Don't worry about anything else. Say you're prone to taking bad trades in lane, or you often fall behind in CS of your lane opponents, or you die a lot in the early game, anything really. Just focus on and put your efforts into fixing that one thing. Everything else can wait for now. When you fix even just one thing, you'll start to win more games. Even if it's just a few more, you'll be getting a higher rating and playing with better players, which will germinate an exponential growth. What I mean when I say that is simply that because you'll be playing with better players, you yourself will learn a lot more. The third reason why you don't climb. You get too caught up in the mistakes you're making during your game. I don't really mean this from a tilting perspective, although that definitely plays into it, but we wouldn't want to get nabbed by the cliche police. Although we are unarmed and non-threatening, so if the police did appear, I'm sure nothing bad would ever happen to us. Specifically though, what I mean by this is that it's easy to get caught up in the whole I need to focus on improving bubble, so much so that you try to analyze stuff on the fly. Sometimes that can work, but more often than not, it's just overly distracting for you. You'll also find that you're more prone to simply constructing an excuse for your actions, for what happened, or why things went wrong, rather than actually being analytical. What you should do, however, is make note of that mistake, maybe on like a notepad or something. Why should you do that? Well, that leads us nicely into our next point. You don't climb because you don't watch your games back. God bless Paparito for finally releasing a replay system. It only took them over half a decade to do it, but better late than never, eh? The ability to watch over your played games is really important, and you should do it whenever you want to maximize the learning from the game you just played. Imagine your games are like an orange or an ex-husband. It's not enough to take a bite, you gotta squeeze that shit for everything it has, then make yourself a delicious glass of orange juice or buy yourself a new car. I'm not saying that you need to watch your games back after every single game that you play. That'd be like an adult bringing a bazooka to a children's water fight. It's a little bit unnecessary and over the top. Just every now and then, maybe after a particularly bad loss or when a specific play happened that you want to really break down and go over. Watching games back is really helpful because you can look at what happened from a more objective standpoint and as devoid of emotion as a eunuch reading a Playboy. That's important because trying to be analytical while still being in the heat of the moment, so to speak, is actually really difficult. On top of all this as well, you can also watch things back from someone else's perspective, which really helps you to put yourself in their shoes. And lastly, watching replays helps to break up the monotony of spamming solo queue games, which allows you to focus more on quality than quantity. Some would say it's like going for a girl with perky tits instead of chasing after the first one you see with massive bajongas. To that I say, every tit is a hit. Gravity and age already do enough to bring them down, why you gotta add to it? Plus, and this is really bloody important, the more confident a girl feels about her body, i.e. the less you're bringing her down, the more likely you are to see it. So, instead of being a reckless dickhead, why don't you do your part in contributing to a global net gain of titties? It's like planting a tree to save the world, except this arguably saves the world in a more important fashion. Like seriously, the only thing stopping titties from being a legal form of tender is that they don't fit in ATMs. But anyway, before we move on to our last few points here, guys, I just want to say if you are enjoying the video, do hit me with that like button and you can subscribe if you want to see more of these kind of videos or some gameplays or whatever you want to see. Anyway, another reason why you don't climb is because, quite simply, you aren't having fun. Climbing is much more of a marathon than a sprint. Like I said, there's no quick fix. So in order to really dedicate to what it takes to improve and to climb, you really should be playing things that you enjoy playing. Your skill ceiling will always be far higher on things you enjoy than things you don't, simply because you'll put more time into playing them. Also, like a disgruntled stripper, grinding on things you don't really want to is often the root cause of attitude problems. Keeping a good attitude is important, and that starts with fun. And for our penultimate point, we're going to kind of break the rules a little bit here because this isn't a reason why you don't climb. It's one of the misconceptions about climbing, and that is that you're not actually as bad as you think you are. You just suck at closing games out. Basically, you're like a chronically injured pitcher. You throw too much. Now, you can work this in with what we were mentioning before about picking one specific point and working on that. The art of closing games out is pretty bloody complex and would be way too much for this specific video, but just as a short answer, some things to think about. Play around or group with those who are strong on your team. Ward the enemy jungle so you can make more plays safer. Play for objectives like towers and dragon, and don't get impatient with forcing fights. So for our last point today, and of course, last but not least, you don't climb because you are afraid to mute people. Muting is not the same as reporting. It's not a sign of weakness. You don't have to just mute people because they're being toxic. It's not you saying something like, oh, I wish this person was banned. No, it's just simply you don't want to hear what they have to say. A lot of the times that can be something as simple as they're whinging a little bit too much and it's distracting me. Muting people is not going to significantly hinder your communication with your teammates. I'd say there is a far higher chance that the chat and the pings are going to be used to vent frustration than for any kind of constructive purpose. So don't be afraid to hit the /mute all when things get a little bit hairy. And if you are a jungler specifically, or if you're having a particularly bad game, /full mute all will mute the pings and the chat in one fell swoop. Not only does this mean that you can fully dedicate to focusing on the game at hand, but it also gets rid of one of the biggest reasons of tilting, which is arguing with your teammates. At any rate, I think that just about does it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like I said, you can leave me with a cheeky thumbs up. You can subscribe to me for more content like this or more gameplays. I also have a second channel called Foxdrop Plays where I play full gameplays every other day. I'll link to that down below in the description, or you can just like Google it if I've forgotten to link to it or something like that. Also, don't forget to hit me up on Twitter and on Twitch. Follow me there. Those links are down below in the description. And before you go, I just want to leave you with a quick message. I started making videos because I felt worthless and wanted to contribute to instead give value to others' lives as I was failing to do so with my own life. If you feel rough in your life, try reach out to someone. And at the very least, take comfort in knowing that I'm saying these words for you, because you matter. You may say there are thousands of people watching this video, but if you needed to hear this, then I'm saying this for you. Have an amazing day, guys. Thanks so much for checking me out, and I will see you in my next video.